Hey, what is up guys, welcome back to this game's tutorial. So today we actually implement some kind of difficulty to our enemy. So as you can tell, we spawn a enemy using now something we call a difficulty. So if we go up here, we have easy, medium, hard, and then insane. And we also have a wave difficulty. So depending on which wave we are and which difficulty we set when we started the game, our enemies are going to have different hit point value and damage value. So right now I'm on medium. This enemy hits for 2 and takes 2 hit to die, so it pretty much has 2 HP right now. And that is what we're going to be doing today, guys. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so today we're going to be starting off by creating a manager. Hopefully this is the last manager we have to do. And this one is the game manager, so it's one of the most important one. And it is going to be inside of the game scene. Now, we're going to be putting this one on top of a empty game object that we'll also call game manager. Let's go ahead and just drag and drop our new script on top of that. And the game manager is pretty much going to be used to control, well, first the waves, the enemies, like how many waves, which wave are we on, and what kind of enemy are we sending, but also the loot system a little bit later on. So, we have our game manager out here. Let's go ahead and make sure we have a public static instance of it, so public static game manager instance. We'll turn that into a property with a setGet, then a private void start. Instance is equal to this. Like so. And now we already do a couple of things when we start the game scene, and they are located somewhere in the tower script. So inside of my tower script, I'll go ahead and find the onLevelWasLoaded function, and this is what we do. We pretty much just set this boolean to either true or false, depending if we are in the game or not. And we're going to keep doing that. It is because we need it somewhere in the update. So in the update, if we're in game, we actually do the tower mechanics. But for the rest of it, if is in game, we toggle on the we toggle off the recap menu. We don't need this anymore. Let's go ahead and just do that inside our game manager instead now. So we're going to be removing this. In fact, we're going to be removing everything that involves the recap menu inside of the tower script, so the game object as well. Do we have anything else? Oh, over here, take damage, we do, if hit point is below than 0, then we do this, so recap menu set active to true. Instead, we are going to be doing game manager dot instance on tower def, which is a function we don't have just yet. Let's go ahead and implement it instead of the game manager. So over here, public, make sure it's public, on tower def. So whenever the tower actually dies, we go here and we're going to be working with that instead of just doing it inside of the big tower script. Alright, so we've got this now. Let's go ahead and just find on the game manager, we are going to, replace what we just removed. So pretty much we had the recap menu toggling on and off depending if we're starting game or not, and if we lose all our HP. So we're gonna make a public game object recap menu, and we'll make it public so I can simply drag and drop the thing. This time we don't have to do the game object.find. And whenever we start the game, let's go ahead and make this false, so recap menu set active false, and whenever we die, recap menu set active true. Okay. Now we can go over to the game manager, drag and drop our recap menu in there, so here it is. Now having this as a public game object like this, we can actually turn it off now, and it's still going to work. So by turning it off, I can actually see what's going on in the back of my screen, but there's actually nothing, so I'll just turn it back on. But now that's possible, so let's make sure we haven't broken anything before we move over to the enemy difficulty. Everything seems to be working fine. And let's actually try dying. And yeah, everything works fine. Now, of course, there's this little bug that somebody pointed out in the comment where we're still dead if we enter the game scene, we are going to go ahead and just fix that as well. So in the start, whenever we start this scene, let's go ahead and do the tower.instance.hitPoint is equal to stats helper that instance gets that value, and we're getting the stat of the hit point, like so. This way, whenever we do die and we come back to the mission screen, then we're actually back to full HP. Let's give it a try. So we go, we die, we come back. So here, and we can actually start fighting again. Okay. So this is all fine for the game manager's thing, but what we really wanted to tackle this episode is actually start putting some kind of difficulty on top of our enemies. And to do that, I will go ahead and just declare up here a public enum that I call difficulty. This is going to be for the difficulty mode of the actual mission. So say whenever you actually, well, it's going to be in the hub. So in the hub, you're going to have the choice to start a game as an easy game, as in medium game, hard, and maybe insane. So this is what this is going to be used for. Let's go ahead and type in easy. Easy is going to equal 1. Medium is equal 2. Hard is equal, say, 4. And insane is going to be equal 7. Now these values are going to be used a little bit later. They're going to be used to multiply the amount of hit point and also damage the enemy gets. So you're having a tiny enemy that has 1 in damage and 1 in hit point. If you're on medium, he's going to have 2, and if you're on hard, he's going to have 4. Insane 7, and so on. So how exactly should we go about putting these values inside of the actual enemy? So what I was thinking about is actually go over to the spawn manager and declare a public structure up here. Not a class, an actual struct. This is not going to be a lot of stuff. So public struct, spawn information, and this is going to contain 3 things. First one, the enemy type. Which type of enemy are we spawning? Second one, the time. When exactly are we spawning it? Inside of our wave. So say we're on wave 2, then after 3 seconds we spawn this enemy, and then what else? The public difficulty of it. So what's the difficulty of the enemy? This is also going to be used for the looting system as well. Okay, and that's pretty much all we need here. Is it really all we need here? I think it is, actually. Okay, so that's all fine and dandy, and we can actually, you know, multiply the amount of damage and multiply the amount of hit point the enemy has by this. But say on level 1, if you're on insane, it's gonna do times 7, and that's fine because insane is supposed to be a really hard mode. But now, if you are on wave, say a wave 100, you are still spawning enemies that only have 7 health and 7 damage, and at this point 7 is going to be a pretty irrelevant number. So we need to actually increase the hit point and the damage based on which wave are we on right now. So if you complete the first wave, the second one should be a little bit tougher, and third one again, and fourth, and so on. So we need some kind of other difficulty, some kind of other factor that is going to actually influence the amount of damage and hit point our enemy has. And this is where we go back in the actual stat container. Oh, not stat container, the stat helper. And we're going to be generating another array. So private const level value, well, these array that we've made a little bit earlier for the price and also the gold cost. Or I mean, I'm getting mixed up in my words, sorry. For the level values and then for the price values. So we're going to be having one for the difficulty values of the wave as well. Let's go ahead and just do the same exact thing we do pretty much every time we create one of those. We're going to go ahead and just create a private int. This is going to be the wave difficulty array is a new int, and then how many wave do we want to have maximum? Let's go ahead and just type in max wave level is equal to 500, and after 500 we just give it the maximum value all the time. We could be incrementing that value, doesn't really matter, but I'll be putting it on 500 because I don't think the game is going to be that long. And there's also going to be prestige mechanics, so it's going to be reset pretty much all the time. Okay, so we have this, the wave value. We need a maximum wave level, we have that. We also need a private cons float. Let's call this the wave. How exactly could we be calling this? We could be calling this the wave. Well, pretty much the same exact thing as we have here. So wave value scales. And this one is going to scale on 50, so it's going to be a little bit slower than the rest of the levels, and that's just fine because we're multiplying two skills at once, about the attack and the hit point. So it has to be a little bit slower than the other two values. You're gonna see exactly what this does in a moment when I actually start implementing it. So if we go down here in the generate price section, we're gonna be doing private void generate wave difficulty array. And let's take the exact same code that we put in these two, so this one, and we're going to be changing this for max wave level. We're going to be changing this part here for only I times this, I divided by wave value scale. And I'm actually going to debug.log this so I can see it. So let's also change the array. Let's make sure we actually change the array. Here and here. Wave difficulty. And this should actually do it. Okay, so in the start, there is some places where I can type this in. So in the awake, actually, generate wave difficulty array. And let's just go to our preload and have a look at this. So the basic formula for, say, the enemy hit point is I'll be doing the base hit point, the one you have on your prefab, so maybe 1 in this case, times the value we get of the wave difficulty, and then times difficulty. So at level 1, this isn't going to work because we get 0. So let's just make sure we tackle this right away. Let's go back in our wave difficulty. We're going to say if wave difficulty array at the index I is equal to 0, then let's make sure that the wave difficulty array, okay, I think I typed it right, is equal to 1. So that just makes sure we actually don't multiply by 0 because that would be a shame. Okay, so at level 1 we have this. So basically we have 1, and if the hit point is 1, then it stays 1. Okay, let's actually give it a look in the game. Well, it's not gonna work because we haven't done the thing yet. Sorry, I'm a little bit confused this morning. But if we take a look, the first 3 levels are going to be the exact same. So they're all going to have the same amount of HP, and I think that's okay. Then starting at level 4, we actually multiply by 2 the amount of HP, and then we'll multiply that by the difficulty amount. So if, say, your difficulty amount is on medium, that is 2, then we do 1 times 2 times 2 again. So you're going to end up with 4 HP at level 4. And I think that's fine. So we can actually use this value now and start buffing our enemies. Where exactly should we be buffing these enemies? I think we are going to be buffing these enemies inside of an actual function that we'll make inside of the enemy script. So, somewhere here on my enemy.cs, I will create a public void set difficulty that takes in a difficulty diff. This one is going to need to know what is the base hit point and the base damage of that very prefab. So in order to have this, I will create 2 new values. Private float base hit point and private float base damage. Now the reason I actually store them here is because since we're using this in a pool, hit point is actually going to go down, and I can't actually just use hit point when I reuse that object, because hit points going to be on 0 because the object was dead. So I gotta be like storing these value right away as soon as I create this prefab. So in a private void awake, and this is really important, you gotta be calling the awake and not the start in this case, because we need it before we actually set. We need to call this before we do a launch enemy. So this is why we need to put it in a awake and not a start. We're gonna be doing base hit point is equal to hit point, and base damage is equal to damage. This is going to grab the values on the prefab itself, so the value we put here, and actually store them somewhere. Now, having these values, what we need to do at this point is get, okay, so what's the value of the actual current difficulty right now? What's the wave difficulty at the very moment? So let's do int wave difficulty is equal to, and then we do a stats helper, that instance that get, do we have the value? We don't have the, okay, so since we haven't made a function for that, let's go back inside of the stats container, go at the very bottom, sorry, not stat container, the actual stats helper, where is it at? Stats helper here. So where we do the get price, get stat value, we are also going to do a public int get wave difficulty value. That makes sense, and we're going to get it using the int wave index. Okay, return wave difficulty array at wave index. Let's also make sure we treat if we're actually above 500. So if wave index is bigger or equal to max wave level, then if that's the case, go ahead and just return wave difficulty array at the index max wave level -1, which is going to give you index 499, which is pretty much just the last index. So after 500, our enemies don't scale anymore. And if we wanted to scale more, we can simply put a bigger number here. But I don't think that's going to be needed in this case. And if it is, I can just go ahead and increment that value. So that's good. That's working. What else do we need? I think that should be fine actually. Let's go back inside of the enemy script, and we're going to do a get wave difficulty value. This one takes in a wave index. Do we have a wave index somewhere? We don't. Okay, so the wave index is going to be stored inside of the game manager. So I'll just do a public int current wave, and I'll put a capital to that because I want this to be a property that I'll be accessing from outside. And let's also make sure we put it to 1 whenever we start the game, so current wave is equal to 1. Okay, for now we should actually be fine, and we can actually code this function. So we get the wave difficulty value at game manager, that instance current wave. This should actually give us the number we want. So in this case, it's going to be 1 for the first wave, and we can actually use that to multiply. So let's do hit point is equal to base hit point times the wave difficulty, so 1 times the int difficulty, and that really depends on which difficulty you actually set at the beginning. So if I give you like a really quick example, we're gonna press play here, see if our debug.log is still there, and it is. Say we are on level 5 and we're actually using the tiny enemy. Say we're on level 5 difficulty medium. That means we get the actual number 3 here, so 1, say 1 HP times 3, we get 3, and then times the difficulty, and since we're on medium, that is 2, so we end up getting a hit point of 6, and so on. And yeah, and I think that's pretty much it. Let's do the exact same thing for the damage. So damage is equal to base damage times wave difficulty times int diff. Okay, how shall we go about testing this out now? I think we're going to be swapping a few things around right now just to test this out. So we're going to go over to the span manager. And inside of the span manager, we have this update over here. Let's just make sure we actually remove this one. And I'm going to copy it beforehand. So either copy or cut. We are going to go over to the game manager, and the game manager is now the one that is going to all the updates. So private void update. If we press on A, we are going to do span manager dot instance dot spawn enemy, and let's just go ahead and just we don't need the zone index. I don't think we need, so I'm just going to remove this one. Spawn the enemy. Oh, and we should also be, I think we should also be setting difficulty in here. Okay, so spawn enemy is going to take the enemy type and also difficulty. Back to our game manager, we are going to say, let's start with say a medium one, so difficulty medium when we press on A. Now what else do we need here? Zone position is plus equal to this, that's fine. Let's actually do so how should we handle the zone now that I actually removed that? Okay, so instead of having the zone ID up here, I'm going to use the zone index instead, which is simply going to do the exact same thing we had a little bit earlier. So we get the enemy, we do a reset on it. Let's actually do the set difficulty right afterward, and we're going to be setting the diff like so. And I think we should be actually ready to go. Let's give this a try. If we go over to preloader, we launch the game. Go here. I'm on, well, I said that whenever I spawn an enemy, I want the enemy to be on medium, I think. Is that what I said? Yes. Over here. We're spawning a tiny enemy, and difficulty is on medium. So I'm expecting this one to have 2 HP and 2 damage. Going to press on A. And here it is. As you can tell, it has 2 HP and 2 damage if we take a look at the very right side on the inspector. And it actually takes 2 hits to take him down. So that's pretty much it actually. If I just respawn him again, we're using the same exact prefab and it went back to the actual good values. And yeah, so that's going to be pretty much it guys for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you learned something. If you did, please leave me a like. I really appreciate that. If you have any question or comment, you can leave them in the comment section below and I'll try to answer them as soon as possible. And you might actually want to reduce the attack per second here because they were attacking quite fast. And yeah, other than that, please subscribe for more tutorials like these, and I will see you guys in the next episode.